Hi everyone, and welcome to closeUP. My name is Suzzanne Cromwell and I am your host. Thank you for tuning in to us today. Today our guest on closeUP is going to be Dr. Sue Roberts, and Dr. Roberts is actually from the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University right here in Boston. And Dr. Roberts is actually involved in a really wonderful nationwide study that is looking at how limiting your calorie intake can actually help slow down the aging process and lower your risk of cardiovascular problems, diabetes, and other various diseases. And this is a wonderful nationwide research that Tufts is involved in. So we're really happy to have Dr. Roberts here. So welcome.
Thank you, Suzzanne. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, wonderful to have you. Before we do get started with our conversation, I want to properly define the name of the study is CALERIE, and it's spelled CALERIE, and the study is spelled calorie, but it's actually on caloric intake. And I just want to make it clear to our viewers that CALERIE is an acronym, and it does stand for a comprehensive assessment of the long-term effects of reducing intake of energy.
It's a mouthful, I know. You know, the name wasn't our name. The National Institutes of Health is funding this study. They've invested $20 million to see whether they can help people age more slowly, more gracefully.
So thanks for being on our show. We actually do have quite a lot to cover. This is a nationwide study. So actually, if you don't mind just briefly summing up the study for us, that would be great.
Well, you know, I think most of us, by the time we get to 50, which is where I am this year, are very conscious of being older. You know, you're not old, but you're definitely not young anymore. And you're very keen to hang on to the health and the aging and the youth that you have. I mean, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that aging process starts way back in your 20s and 30s and 40s. So what this study is all about is better ways to stop the clock, better ways to get to 50 and find yourself still very useful. So we're actually doing studies on people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s on, you know, better ways to get older without aging.
And that is what the research on aging at Tufts is doing right now, currently?
The center at Tufts does all kinds of studies on aging. It does studies on the nutrient requirements of aging, how many milligrams of calcium you need, how many milligrams of selenium and vitamin C, because those things change with aging. This study is quite unique actually because it's caloric restriction in animals is the one intervention that has been shown to truly stop the clock, to actually extend lifespan, to get rid of all of the major diseases that trouble people as they get older. So caloric restriction is a very kind of special, hugely effective intervention in animal models, but it's never really been tested in humans before for how effective it should be, which is why the NIH is supporting it with such a lot of money now.
And according to all the research materials, the participants in the study will be reducing their caloric intake by 25%?
25%.
Is there a specific reason why that percentage?
Oh, we agonized about that percentage. You know, in animal studies, a 25% caloric restriction is visibly effective. It's a percentage which extends lifespan. They actually live longer. Things like their hormones all stay at a much more useful profile. Their fur goes grey less quickly. They have a whole range of, you know, visible and invisible effects of caloric restriction. You can also restrict an animal's calorie intake lower than that and also get benefits. But we felt for humans that 25% was a good compromise value, that we could expect to see benefits. We're setting up a study to see whether we can see benefits. But at the same time, it's not something which is going to be impossible for anybody to do.
Now, with regard to the study, describe for us what a good participant for the study, what are the criteria for a good participant?
Okay, so a good participant for this study is somebody who has an interest in health and an interest in aging. They would like to keep themselves good as they get older. They are a person usually who has a good desire to participate in their community and their world, because you're really helping research by participating in the study. So they're usually very good souls. You know, we have a lot of fun talking to them. They're people who are, you know, often they've been activists in other things. They've been, you know, maybe they've got kids, maybe they haven't got kids, but they have an interest in things outside their immediate house often. They're people typically who are not too physically active. We actually screen out athletes, because people who are doing triathlons and going off on weekends to play soccer and crew, they wouldn't have time typically to do a research study, to be a volunteer on a research study. They start healthy. They can be a normal weight, they can be overweight, but not have a really serious weight problem, because we had to define some criteria which would standardize the study, if you like. So we've screened out people who are, you know, anorectic on the one hand, or have a really major eating problem and severe obesity on the other hand. Regular people, if you like.
So, and obviously folks who aren't battling diabetes or have any sort of, you know,
but for
major
people who
disease.
have diabetes or active heart disease or right now would not be good candidates. I think, honestly speaking, you know, many of those people would really benefit from caloric restriction, but because this is a research study, we can't start people like that. You know, I hope that they'll benefit from the results that we get in the future.
And what is the age group?
The age group is 20s, 30s, and 40s.
20s, 30s, and 40s. Now, and you did mention that folks who are very, very active, you know, either physically or maybe in their careers, you know, might not be good candidates, because this study is actually a 2-year study.
So that's a long study. It's a long study.
Yeah, it's
people who are not sure they're going to be here in 2 years. For example, graduate students. We have a lot of graduate students at Tufts, and I'm happy to take graduate students if they have time, but also if I know that their coursework's lasting at least 2 years. Somebody who has been moving every 12 months for their business wouldn't be a good candidate, because they're not sure they're going to be in town in 2 years. We want settled people who can come and join the Tufts community and have a great time as a research volunteer.
Now, how, if someone does have a 9-to-5 job, does have a profession, how does this study work with them?
Well, you know, I think, honestly speaking, most of our volunteers have jobs. We have a few people who don't work, but probably more than half our people have jobs, and we accommodate them, because in this study, somebody who is randomized to the active piece of the intervention, they come and see us pretty regularly. They have their own personal nutritionist. They have their own personal clinical psychologist who make it work for them, who make it an enjoyable experience. They can cut calories without getting hungry. So they do need to come in to see our people. But that turns out for most people to be a very kind of empowering experience. So we just make it work. Our psychologists will be there at 7 o'clock if somebody needs them. You know, we haven't ruled out weekends, after work. We have some flexibility for people who work, because, you know, we know that people who work are people who are getting things done.
Right.
So, they're often people who can take on a bit more.
So the important thing is any viewer who is watching who does have a full-time job during the day shouldn't rule themselves out. If they really are interested, they should definitely
absolutely
still express their interest.
I think, realistically, people who have one job and kids, they do fine. The people who are too busy are the people, who have, 3 kids and they're working 2 jobs to make ends meet. That kind of thing is so busy that there isn't time in their life for something else. But, if you have what you might call a regular working life, you have a kid or 2, you have a job, you have 2 days off a week, for weekends for your own thing, that can be made to work very easily. And of course, people who don't work often really love this kind of thing, because
yes, absolutely.
It's a very enriching experience, actually. You join a research community, you spend your time talking to, a whole group of people who you wouldn't normally meet. I think many people love that.
That's wonderful. And as you mentioned, each participant, will be under the supervision of wonderful clinical staff,
right.
which is a real plus.
We we are located downtown Boston, next to the New England Medical Center, and so the first place that we advertised for subjects, for volunteers, was in the hospital next door, and we set up a little booth in the atrium. And I sat there for an hour over lunchtime, and people floated by and asked about the study. And one of them said to me, "What's the catch?" I said, "There's no catch." You know,
I say it does sound like, it's, just for the sake of this interview, I am trying to put questions out there that, just so folks, can really get the full picture of the study, but there really doesn't seem to be too much of a downside at all. Other than time commitment.
I think it's an amazing experience. We did a pilot study before we started this main study. We did a pilot study. Many of the people who were in the pilot were desperate to join the study because they heard it would be a kind of an enriching, empowering experience, and they'd really loved it. But we're not allowed to because the NIH has decided that anybody who went through the pilot is not eligible for the main study. The time commitment is the catch. That's really the only thing. If you have time, that's no catch. It's an empowering thing to have something valuable and interesting to do. But for people who are too busy, that would definitely be the catch.
Yeah, because we definitely we want to point out too that there are overnight stays that are involved along the 2-year period of the study. So that's something that folks can consider. Now, a question that I had asked you before we started the interview was participants are actually under the care of clinicians that are involved in the study, but what about their own personal physicians? Is their involvement with a personal physician at all? Does a personal physician need to give permission to a participant to do this, or
not at all? This is a completely separate thing from your own personal physician. If somebody thinks they might be interested in the study, they should contact us, and we have a dialogue. We talk to them, what their life is like, whether they have any of the exclusions like cancer and diabetes and things that would make them not suitable for the study. But then we bring them in a couple of times to the research center and we do some tests. We do the kind of tests that physicians should do. We do a blood test for liver function and thyroid and diabetes, which people might not have noticed, and things like that, but also very specialized tests like bone mineral density to check that people are really healthy before we start. So we do our own tests to check that they would be very healthy and very suitable for the study. Sometimes we turn up in screening that somebody does have a problem that they didn't realize.
Is high cholesterol ever an issue, or I guess if it's incredibly
if it's at a range where it's being treated, sometimes some of the drugs would be exclusions.
I see.
But so if we turned up a major problem, if somebody had osteoporosis, for example, very low bone mineral density, that would be an exclusion for the study, but somebody wouldn't know that. They'd just be walking around without realizing that probably, and we give them that information which they can choose to share with their physician if they want to.
Now, let's talk about the food intake part. And a question that came to my mind when I was researching for the interview was, now folks are not fed pre-prepared meals. They cut the calories from their own diets that they already have, or they're not given prepared meals, are they?
We have a month at the beginning of the study when we provide food, just to get people started, to show them examples. But then they work one-on-one with one of our research dietitians to plan their own menu, because we say to them, we start off by saying, okay, what do you normally eat? What do you like? What do you like on weekends? What do you like on weekdays? How many meals do you have? We get them to record what they eat for a few days.
I was going to ask if there's a food journal involved, if participants need to or choose to maybe keep a food journal.
Well, I think you can make any kind of food work. I actually think that cutting 25% of calories is not something that people find that hard. You just have to be smart about it. And dietitians can say, okay, I can see that you love sausages. Yes. For example, let's make sausages work in the menu. Maybe sausages won't be so frequent. Maybe there'll be other things with the sausages. But, we start by seeing what somebody likes to eat in the first place, and then we help them tweak that so that you can cut calories and lose some weight without giving up everything you love.
That's wonderful. And for someone who might not be too physically active, is physical activity also integrated in the study, or?
What we say to our participants is that, government recommendations are that, everybody should try and get half an hour a day of some form of activity. So we just put that out there, but, that's really under the person's own control, what they do with activity.
So they're not required to start getting on a treadmill, or if they don't want to. It is good, though.
In animal studies, actually, what you see quite reproducibly is that when you put an animal on a caloric restriction regimen, they actually spontaneously become more active. So that's one of the things that
they
we're
feel better,
checking.
maybe. They feel better.
Well, you think about it. You're walking around carrying perhaps 20 pounds more than you should. You get rid of that 20 pounds, and your body feels much lighter. So that's one of the things we'll actually be measuring, is to see how people's spontaneous activity changes as a result of caloric restriction.
Now, this was another thing that occurred to me. Having a diet that's lower in calories, I think most people, when they hear that, they say, well, that's obviously very good for me. Why is this study so unique, or why it almost seems like we're proving something that is already kind of obvious?
That's quite a common misperception, if you like. When somebody diets, they cut calories, but they often cut them quite severely. They might cut calories in half, and then they go back to eating pretty much what they always did in the first place. So the calorie intake is kind of swaying around. What this is a small cut that you keep forever. You do, in fact, lose just as much weight. The average participant in our study will lose about 15% of their body weight if they're doing the caloric restriction piece of the study. For some people it may be 10%, some people it might be 20%. So the amount of weight you lose is quite significant, but you do it in what's, truly speaking, an easier way on the body, because you're just taking a small piece and keeping it off. So people lose weight more quickly at the beginning, and then it plateaus off, so that they lose just a small amount of weight every week, probably for about a year.
I think that's a very good point to make, because you're right. I mean, I think I can also speak from my own personal experiences. You have this concept of this great diet you want to get on, or you want to really watch your eating, and I think you can in the beginning take it way to the opposite end, and then you feel like you're just denying yourself, and then unfortunately people bounce right back to their old bad eating habits.
That's right.
Yeah.
The people in the pilot study that we did before, they were thrilled. It wasn't just the weight that they lost, but they felt more energetic. They slept better. They were very cheerful. They were very enthusiastic about, how it was empowering. We had some people who changed their job. They changed their life. The whole thing was just very empowering. In the first participants who are going through the study now, we have some people who maybe they haven't had an easy home environment for weight control. Maybe they have an overweight husband, an overweight kid, or something like that. What they're finding is that their family is quite empowered by seeing their progress, and that the families are changing too.
And they're bringing that back home to their families.
Right,
what they're learning.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you mentioned the current participants. When did the study actually begin? When did the first participants? You refer to the first the trial.
Okay, well, we had a pilot trial which allowed us to just kind of set up the study to make sure that we could really do what we wanted to do, which was, have a group of happy, calorically restricted people without any side effects that we could see.
And
the new study, the main study started. We had our first participants start late last spring.
Okay.
So we have now 29 people who've enrolled in the study, and we need about another 50 or so.
Wow. So it's an ongoing.
It's ongoing. We enroll as people apply to the study, and it's a back and forth process. They learn about the study, we learn about them, and after a couple of weeks we will work out if this is something that they would really like to do, and we would like to have them. And so just as people apply to the study, we look at everybody individually as they call us up or send us an email, and we will enroll until we get up to our 84 participants, which is our goal.
And what is the time frame for the study? When will you stop accepting participants and just start really?
We're expecting to finish enrollment within 2008.
Okay.
Maybe it will be this summer.
Okay.
Maybe it will be Christmas. It'll depend on how many people that seem to be a really good fit for the study.
And once that is done, and once participants, that cutoff is reached, how long will it be before the release of all the data?
Science is a slow process. It can be frustrating sometimes, and it comes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
The pilot study data is being released right now. We're in the middle. We've had some of our studies published. We are in the middle of writing.
That's pretty quick, because that was last spring.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Mm.
The current participants in the new trial, I think that the results won't come out for, we'll get the very first results perhaps in a couple of years, but then it'll be another maybe 4 years from now before the major findings come out.
That's very good, and obviously this is anonymous for any participant. And is there compensation for participants?
Well, there is. In fact, there's a $5,000 compensation for participating in the study. We appreciate people's time and their effort in the study, so the NIH is providing this compensation. Now,
one of the things that folks should know is they should really be able to have accessibility to, I guess, the home base, you could call it, for the study. And is this right on you referred to downtown, the downtown area?
It's
in
right
Boston.
by Chinatown.
In Boston.
It's one stop. It's the Boylston T stop, the Chinatown T stop. It's right on the T. The New England Medical Center is on Washington Street.
Okay.
So it's on the corner of Washington and Newton. Yeah, it's very
So
easy.
that would be the hub, and that would also be where participants would spend their overnight time when overnight time is required.
Right. We have a few overnight stays at baseline before they start the intervention, and then at 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. It's actually a really nice building. I have an office on the 13th floor, and I look out over the harbour. So, and actually the participants' bedrooms are one floor below me, and half of them look out over the harbour, the other half look over the Charles River. So it's very nice, actually.
Wow. And while participants are staying there for their overnight stays, are they fed prepared meals that are given to them on site?
Absolutely. We prepare meals, and we do things like we test their metabolic rate, we measure their bone mineral density, we get a few blood samples, we give them questionnaires to see how they're doing, how cheerful they are.
They still get a good night's sleep, though. Yeah. That's important to know. One other thing that I actually wanted to cover, there's a website which is really fabulous, and I think the NIH set up the website.
Right, the NIH set up the website. We have, this is a national study, so there's 3 sites who are actively enrolling volunteers. One is in Louisiana, another one is at Washington University in St. Louis, and there's Boston. And then we have a coordinating center who's, doing all of the managerial aspects of the study, and that's Duke University. So the NIH gave some money to Duke to set up a website which provides extra information. But yes, that's very useful.
We do have the website, and I believe that we're going to be giving that website information. There's also contact information as well that we'll be giving our viewers. But the website actually has quite a lot of information, and I was telling you earlier, there's the video that's on the website.
Yes, that's
explaining. It's about it's a 12-minute video, and it's really well done, and it really explains everything that anyone would ever need to know.
Right.
So I think that viewers might do well going to the website, and just looking at all of the information that's there too.
Yeah. No, the video. I think the more information people have, the more excited they get. So that's what we thought is, let's put all of the information out there, because caloric restriction works so well in animals, and this is the first proper human trial. And we're doing the trial because you never know if you have a finding in animals whether it will really work in humans, whether it will be completely safe. But there's no reason to believe that something that works in several kinds of monkeys, rats, mice, dogs, every other kind of species that's ever been tested won't be useful in humans. So we're putting the information out there so people can get as excited about it as we are.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, and how is it that you came to this research center at Tufts?
Caloric restriction. Well, I think I've always been interested in healthy aging, and being able to eat your way to health is a very attractive concept to me. I'm personally not that physically active. I had a ski injury 20 years ago, which would prevent me doing marathons or anything like that. So my route to good health is through nutrition and pushing the boundaries on how we can eat better to keep ourselves happy, healthy, young. I think that's a great concept. I also do research on weight control, how to make weight control diets easier. So this particular study is very exciting for me because it brings together my interest in healthy aging and how to make weight control easier, all in one package.
And how long have you been involved with this sort of research?
Oh, too long, 20 years. I came to America in 1986. I came here for family reasons. My husband was American. We never intended to stay in Boston. We were just here for training. But it's such a great place.
That's wonderful.
That we stayed, we settled down, we had a family, we bought a house. I hope to die here, but not for a long time.
Well, with the research you're doing, hopefully not. And where is it that you came from?
From England.
Oh, where in England?
Essex, which is it's quite close to London, 50 miles northwest of London.
Oh, that's fabulous. And how long have you been at Tufts in particular?
Almost all that time,
all that
actually.
time.
I started at MIT because MIT at that time had a very active nutrition department, but then Tufts was just opening its nutrition and MIT was just closing its nutrition, so I moved across the river. And
worked out perfectly.
Yeah, there's a very active nutrition community at Tufts. There's many research studies there. I mean, ours is only one of a number of research studies on healthy aging that people come to volunteer for.
Well, this sounds really attractive and wonderful. And as we had said before, there doesn't seem to be a downside at all if a person is willing to commit a good amount of time. But it is for a wonderful cause, and it is a national study. So we do hope that you will contact the folks over at Tufts to find out more about this study. We do have some contact information for you. There is an email address if you wish to find out some more or to contact Tufts here in the Boston area. And the email is CALERIE, Calorie, at tufts.edu. And there's also a really wonderful website that we actually referred to earlier. And the website is actually calorie.dcri.duke.edu, and we will be giving you that information as well. There's a phone number, 617-556-3125, and that is all good information if you're interested in being a part of a wonderful nationwide research on how to just start eating better and living better, cutting calories out of your diet, and just helping these folks out with this wonderful study. And my guest, Dr. Roberts, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Okay, well, thank you, Suzzanne.
Yes,
it's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. And Dr. Roberts is actually from the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging here in the Boston area at Tufts University. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Suzzanne Cromwell, and this is our edition of Close Up, and we're ending the show. And thanks so much for watching, and take care.